Welcome to From the Ashes, the Dungeon Crawler Network podcast all about Ashes of Creation by Intrepid Studios. Bear witness to the rebirth of the MMORPG genre from the ashes of an industry that has left the gamers behind. I'm Aggelos, founder of the Dungeon Crawler Network, and we are coming to you live from the Mighty Beard Tavern with my co-host, the one, the only, Stormzlord. How are you, sir? Maybe?
Now I can hear everybody.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Well, welcome.
Welcome. I can hear now. We're here.
Nice. I'm glad. I was a little worried there. I'm like, oh, great start to the show right off the bat.
I see his lips moving, but I don't hear him. Okay.
People would start to think we're the official live stream at this point with audio issues.
There you go. That's it. That's
not.
the goal.
Better not. Love you, Steven. Just so you know. Love you, guys. Anyway. Also, we got Alpha Soul. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great today.
Excellent. I'm glad you're here. It's awesome. We also have a special guest, Imorik. How are you, sir?
Doing good. Glad to be here.
Excellent. So, also got to say hi to the chat room themselves. I see we got a couple people already starting to filter in. Snack X-Pack. Oh, Prophet Winfrey is there. Shout out to Prophet Winfrey yet again. One of our YouTube commenters. Thank you so much. Thank you. And a Demon2749 and Happy Hansel. You guys are great. Right at the top of the show. Thank you so much for making time to come out to twitch.tv/Dungeon Crawler Network so you can watch the show live and then watch it again when it's out. Just saying. No, it's going to happen. Anyway, we got a fun show planned for you guys tonight. First off, we're going to be talking about some of the new pre-order cosmetics that are coming into the store, which is pretty exciting. I know that at least one of us has broken his bank account on it.
Yeah, pretty much. This is my jam right here. So, yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah. Definitely. We also have some changes to not changes, but some discussion about the current Alpha 1 progress and where it's at. And we also have Imorik going to give us kind of his first opinions, because I think you were just in it the last test, right?
Yep,
that was your first. Okay, perfect. And of course, we have a little PSA. I know some people have been asking me specifically. They want to start building a PC for Ashes of Creation, but for some of the less PC literate or whatever, they were like, hey, what would you recommend? Well, we're going to kind of give you a little PSA on if you're looking to build before Ashes comes out, this is kind of what you're aiming for to get into the game. Obviously, bigger is better, but hey, we can get there when we get there. And finally, a fun discussion topic we have planned about... Yes, what the title says, even though it's kind of clickbaity and a little misleading, talking about GM or live development live team leading events in game. So yeah, it's going to be fun. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump right on into the news, which is the pre-order store got updated over at the official ashesofcreation.com/shop if you're interested in checking it out. I'm going to be pulling up an image here, and we can be discussing all these different cosmetics. First off, let's just let Alpha Soul rant for a little bit while I get this ready. Go ahead.
All right. Well, so the pre-store and the style that I like is I like the Middle Eastern style, the real setup that's got this a little bit more airy, a little bit more flowy. I like the mounts. I like the new lizardish mounts. They kind of remind me of the Star Wars. I'm not sure what those things were called, but I believe it was, who was it? Man, I forgot. Anyways, it was in the third, I think, prequel movie where he was riding it and, using it to escape from Order 66 or something like that.
Okay.
You guys remember what I'm talking about?
I do remember what you're talking about, but I couldn't remember the life of me what it was called.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan was riding it. I remember that much.
Yeah. Obi-Wan was riding it, but I forgot.
I don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
So I thing.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a big lizard, gecko type thing that stuck to the walls and ran up. Anyways, I like that style. I even like the pet, which is normally not something that I would purchase, but I actually went ahead and purchased that as well too. So I got almost every single item that is there for it.
Nice. All right. Well, let's go ahead and pull this up here real quick. One of the very first ones that we have is what is this? Kyber's Jewel, which is, I guess, this kind of leads us to think that there's going to be mount barding coming into the thing. And thank you, Creative Play and Podcast is now hosting us. So thank you so much, Creative Play, for hosting us here. Much appreciated. Yeah, Kyber's Jewel. I like it because one of my favorite parts of, I want to say BDO had this as well, and BDO had this in abundance, was like horse armor and things of that nature to kind of decorate it out. But Final Fantasy XIV also offered barding before they started going nuts with the different types of mounts. When they only had chocobos, to kind of separate that out a little bit, they added barding. So you could, still have the same chocobo, but there were different barding. So that's pretty cool. I really do like that. What about you guys?
I thought it was okay. That's actually one of the two that I did not get.
Okay.
But it's, because barding for me is like, I'm kind of on the fence on it. So,
I'm curious. Oh, go ahead, Imorik.
I was going to say, I'm excited to have barding in the game. This one, though, despite liking the other cosmetics, is for some reason over the top to me. I don't know if it's the jewels on the side or whatever, but it wasn't my favorite in the pack.
It's very, very Middle Eastern, North African. The kind of what you would see out of a lot of, I'm trying to think, more Arabic kind of style with the barding, the Arabian Nights feel, if you will, because that's what I'm seeing from that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about this barding is the way it's shaped. Do you think it would actually fit other mounts, or would it only be relegated to horses?
Well, it's funny. If you actually look at the lizard, it's on the lizard.
You know what? Is it? All right. We're going to have to get to that. All right.
Well, wait, is it?
It doesn't quite look like it. We're going to get to that in a second. We'll look at that one, but we're going to pull up the next one in the line, which is the one that I was most excited about. This is the Dune Wing Falcon. And this is something that someone pointed out to us before, just from the concept art, is that this thing actually has like 4 wings instead of 2.
Yeah.
Which may explain the wing conspiracy on the weapons, right? The amount of wings. Is it birds there have multiple sets of wings and maybe a replica of the environment?
In chat room, I'd be very interested to hear what you guys have to say as well. But going back to the unusual style animals, remember the one pack that I think I bought a lot of that I really enjoyed, even though it looked like it was wood elf themed, was the owl pet that they had. But it actually had 4 legs. I don't know if anyone even noticed that. When you first looked at it, you're like, oh, it's a cool looking owl. But it wasn't, because it actually had 4 legs to it. So it had, its back legs, and then it had 2 other legs on top of it. It's pretty neat, actually, overall. But definitely, I thought it was just a plain owl. Indy 1964, would a falcon fly with its cap on? I don't think they would, to be honest.
They shouldn't. I mean,
but it's a sand falcon, so maybe, right? Maybe like little goggles in them.
Well, when you do falcon, you put the cap on them so they don't actually fly without your command. When you want it to go after a prey, you pull the cap off and the thing just takes off. But I don't. Maybe this is one of those that just sits on your shoulder the entire time, like all the time. Pretty.
I hope not. I actually, that's funny, because I hope this thing is actually flying above you and just, kind of circling and following you around, from an aerial standpoint.
Yeah, that would be neat too. That would be neat.
Gotcha. Moving on to the next thing, which is the Scale Runner. Now that we're looking at this thing, this is in the center of your screen. Again, I'll have a link in the description of this podcast on the main site. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see it. But if you're listening to us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play. Also, SoundCloud now. We are now officially on SoundCloud as well, so if you want to get to us there, you can do that. And Player FM, there will be a link in the description that you can click and get to where you need to go. So keep that in mind. Yeah, I just did a lot of work getting all 60-some episodes onto SoundCloud. It was a pain in the butt because they don't expect you to do that much at one shot, and it kept trying to limit me. Anyway, Scale Runner. I know one of our guildmates, Spectral Spire, was just in awe about this. I'm actually curious. I don't see him now. He might be asleep. But he was actually mentioning about him wanting this so bad. I don't know. I don't really care for lizard mounts. Alpha Soul, you again. Talk to us. Tell us.
Yeah. So this would probably be my preferred mount. I'm kind of different the other way around. I don't care for horses. I've never cared for horses. But at the same time, I don't care for horses. I don't care for bears because they run funny. And the lizard mounts, on the other hand, or those other kind of funny looking mounts, are the ones that I really like. And I think it's based on the fact I like the way lizards run, and it feels more natural with my character, or with the character of how I envision him moving, and just like the feel of it.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Imorik, I know you and I share somewhat. We share a lot of the same opinion on aesthetics and whatnot. I'm a horse guy.
The same thought.
I like horses. Yep. Just give me a standard horse and a great sword, and I'm a happy guy. All right. But your thoughts?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was thinking too when Alpha was talking. I definitely prefer horses, or even something more typical as far as mythology, griffin, something like that. I would ride something like that. But I like this mount anyway, though. Aesthetically, it looks cool, but probably wouldn't be my choice.
Right. And I mean, some of the theme packs of this is, I know we talked about in one of our earlier episodes, Alpha Soul and I had this conversation. We like to recreate ourselves in game. And for poor Alpha Soul, it's a lot harder because we had this discussion before. I think in Guild Wars 2 it was, up until the recent Path of Fire. If you wanted to make a black character, it just looked like a Caucasian with really dark black skin. You couldn't get it to look the way you wanted it to. I like the fact that what I'm hoping is, especially with the Valoon culture, which is the sub-race or sub-tribe of the humans, that we get that real North African, Middle Eastern, that you can really make it look that way. And
yeah, that's why I'm really excited for this. I mean, that's the whole reason, basically, because I'm really liking how they're branching off on these things, because like you said, I've gotten so used to playing a tanned European that it's really it's really great to see the variations, because Guild Wars 2 Path of Fire, that's when I really was able to start creating characters that look more like me and that I can get more evolved into.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it would make sense. That's what I love seeing this subdivision, and I like this entire pack specifically because it gives me that air of the culture that they're trying to portray. Recently, I just started watching Viking Season 5. If anyone's ever seen that show, it's really fantastic. But they start getting down into North Africa and through all those areas, which were very it would fit the culture. You know what I mean? So it's the Arabian type culture throughout that entire section. North Africa, Carthage area is really neat. So this is really giving me flashbacks to that, seeing the poor Vikings at this point wearing their furs, going, man, it's pretty hot in here. It's time to start changing our clothes and putting on the flowing robes. It was pretty neat to see. So I really like this set. I just hope they do the animation for the lizard in a way that feels realistic. Right?
Yeah.
For a giant lizard?
Well,
realistic for a giant lizard.
I mean, the closest that we have, and I would hope that they would look at this, would be looking at the Komodo dragons, how they move.
Mm-hmm. That would work.
Now, a Komodo dragon, while not only is poisonous, but not big enough for a person to ride, you'd have to scale it up, but you could watch the way they move to get a good animation for this.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And Profit Snacks, thank you for catching us at work. We'll hit you guys up in YouTube later. A lizard wizard casting blizzard. Oh my goodness, Snack Pack. Thank you for that one. Love it. Anyway, what were you saying, Alpha?
Yeah, I was saying they do have a very distinct movement, Komodo dragons. They kind of move from back to forth, or you can kind of see them shuffle from side to side. Whereas geckos kind of go like, I got to take my hand off the keyboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely a movement for the larger lizards. I mean, crocodiles to an extent have it too, but the thing with crocodiles is it feels like with a crocodile, and I think all lizards are like this. I'm not I don't study these, but because crocodiles generally are right against the ground, they have that kind of side motion as well because their arms feel right out. Whereas this thing looks like its arms are straight down and can walk. Komodo dragons are similar.
Yeah.
Hirondis in chat, isn't the metropolis shown in the earlier videos of Aloon City with all the snakes? Yes, that is actually designed as the Aloon City, which is beautiful. It reminds me of Abba's Watch in ESO, which was beautiful.
That's
as well.
true.
Red Guard culture. Yeah. All right, moving on to the next item on the list. And again, we don't go over the price points on all of these. We kind of go from least expensive to most expensive. So if you were going to buy these ad hoc, one at a time, piecemeal, if you will, it's the $5 for the Kyber's Jewel, $15 for the Dune Wing, $20 for the Scale Collar, and these next three we are going to show you are $25 a piece. Of course, they are all part of the different pre-order packs as well. If you haven't picked up a pack yet, you can check that out over at ashesofcreation.com/shop. All right, next up is the Stables of the Oasis. All right, so that's there on the screen right now. It's North African. The best way I could, it's North African inspired. It's beautiful, and I love it. Did you buy this one? Which ones did you not get, Alpha Soul?
This is the other one that I did not get.
Is there a reason you didn't get this?
Because it's just, I like the style, but it's just not what I would ever envision having, as part of my freehold or house, basically.
Sure. I see Happy Hansel. Suddenly I want the mount to run like a gecko. See this guy? don't know what his issue is. Storms, what about you?
Honestly, I was not really interested in these. Except possibly the pet, but to me this is not typically what I would play with. Usually I end up on going the European side. So that's just what I do, right?
Sure.
They're nice. I like them. I'm not as impressed as I was about the space turtle, but I do like them. They're pretty good. I do like the lizard and the pet, but to me I'm gonna pass on these ones.
Indy 1964 said Moorish, and that was the word I was looking for. The Moors, the Northern European, European, the North African. What did they call it? Yeah, the Moors, the Musulmen, the early Islamic nations all across North Africa. Yeah, Moors.
Yeah,
thank you.
Moors.
I actually like this more than the turtle because it's realistic. This is while yes, I play Northern European looking characters because that's what I am. I try to always put myself in the world. I would love to walk through a city like this just because it's beautiful.
Oh yeah, that's something totally different. It's a beautiful setup.
Yeah, Imorik, do you have any words on this?
No, not really. Only thing on the entire pack is really gotta be picky about where you set up shop in the world, otherwise it's gonna all look a little out of place. I know we talked about it.
Yeah.
Chat.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
That is gonna be interesting. I guess maybe if and that might be a fun discussion at some point in a future time, is whether or not these specific cosmetics will be allowed in cities that are primarily one race. That would be funny. I can't imagine they would put that level of restriction, but I know they're going to put every time a character earns experience, it earns experience for the node as well, but that experience has a tag on it based on what race you are. And as it levels up, the race that contributes the most are, that's what the cities start to look like, or at least more of the city starts to look like that. That'd be fascinating. Next up, we've got the caravan skin. I saw this in chat. I don't remember who it was. Maybe it was Chibi Bree. Shout out Chibi Bree. Said it felt like very Breath of the Wild looking, kind of Sheikah look. My wife would be jumping up and down with this one, but yeah. So you did get this one, Alpha?
I did. Did get this one only because, and maybe it's a little bit premature, but this is more my idea of what a caravan. When they said caravan to begin with, this is what I thought of in my head. Right. So I was like, if I start doing caravans, then I'll pop this skin on.
Yeah, definitely. I love it. And we're going to move a little faster on this one because we got one more to look at, and this is the costume. This is the Magistrate of the Sands costume. I do like it. I mean, I really do. And there's a cat for people who wanted to see her. I like it a lot. It definitely has that feel. And maybe it's just because it's the thing that's closest into my head right now, but Path of Fire with their whole Alona look, this is what it reminds me of. I see Free Spirit in chat says, I love these robes. And Yonel006, thank you for the submate. Much appreciated. I like these robes.
Yeah, I love these. These are the Crux, very free-flowing. The one thing that I'll be curious of is if they'll allow us, did they say that they'll allow us to dye them?
I can't imagine them not, given the level of customization that they said they want to have with almost every piece of items being modular. Like, I know They spoke about armor that way, being modular, that you could pick and choose how different things are going to fit on you, and then possibly dye. If you're able to pick what fits on your character, I don't imagine it wouldn't have its own dye channel. But I don't know for a fact one way or the other, to be honest.
Yeah, because if it does, that turquoise part is going black. And then that'll be just perfect for me.
Well, now we know what Alpha Soul's character will look like at all times. Perfect. I know that. Nice. Another little PSA before we get going. Thank you so much for, like I said, the subs and whatnot. Make sure you are part of our Discord. You link your Twitch to the Discord, because anyone who is a supporter of us via Patreon over at patreon.com/Dungeon Crawler Network, or subscribes to us here on Twitch at twitch.tv/Dungeon Crawler Network. If you link your Discord with either of those services, you will gain access to our DCN supporters channel, where you get access to all of our shows at least 24 hours before everybody else. So it's always fun to listen and then talk about it in public chat while everyone else scratches their head like, what's going on? Did I miss a show? It's great. I love it. Anyway, there you go. PSA for that. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to the next little bit of news, which happens to be a public service announcement for Ashes of Creation. I had a few questions early on about people were saying, hey, I really want to build a new PC for Ashes of Creation, but they didn't really know what they wanted to do, right? Well, obviously there's a lot of new hardware coming out. We got the new NVIDIA 2000 series, which are insane, which is definitely overkill. But if you're looking for the, to get in there with very good graphics, like probably all the way up to max, if not max, for more of a cheaper budget, you're going to be looking at something along the lines of having a Windows 7 64-bit or a Mac OS X 10.9.2 or later operating system, a quad-core Intel or AMD processor with at least 2.5 gigahertz or faster, and a NVIDIA GeForce 470 GTX. That's a fairly cheap card overall, guys, just so you know. Or an AMD Radeon 6870 HD series, anything like that, or higher, and 8 gigs of RAM. That's a fairly cheap PC. I think, Imorik, you and I were talking, you could probably build that PC for, what, $800, I think?
Actually, I bought my brother a laptop that would kill that, just probably less.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a lot to build that. And that's from the Unreal Engine. That's for developing in Unreal Engine. So if you have that, you're pretty much set to go for Ashes when it comes out. Obviously, if you can afford to get something else, great. But if you're looking to build a PC fairly cheap, that's a way of doing it. Because I got to tell you, that's a fairly cheap PC right there. And it will get you through Ashes. So there you go. There will be a link to this in the description, so you guys will be able to see that as well and go from there. All right? Okay. Let's go ahead and jump into our next topic, which is... Where am I at? Oh, that's right. We are going to talk about Alpha 1 and our experiences, but I really want to hear from Imorik first. So this is where Imorik gets to talk, because you just hopped into this.
Yeah, I mean, when I did get into I had a few issues loading in. I guess a lot of that issue. I only got to play a few games. Definitely needs work in alpha, to be expected. But overall, that once you actually get into the game, aside from, a few visual things that need to be worked on, gameplay-wise, it was very fluid. I was very surprised with it. I didn't have, hardly any stuttering or lag when I got into the game. I think the most players I ever had on my screen at one time, though, was 6. And so I'm interested to see if that will change anything once we start getting more people on the screen at one time. But overall, it was great.
Nice. Yeah, I know that was a similar experience that both Alpha and I had very early on, where it just kind of felt very buttery smooth, especially for right now. But again, we also know that they haven't really hit a point where I would consider it an MMO yet. I know I've seen a lot of people, and Steven knows I love him. Steven knows I support the game like crazy. My goodness, we're 63 episodes into a weekly show. So, I mean, come on. We obviously support the game. But I see other content creators going, oh, this MMO in alpha, this is amazing. It's not an MMO yet with less than 100 people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's not an MMO. Yeah, it's a great framework. They're doing great, but it's not an MMO yet. It's a nice testing phase, you know? But even at this point, I know they already said they're going to let in 10,000. All the Alpha 1 backers are now going to be in as of this week. Even if all of us are in, we're still a matchmaking game that's no different than 10,000 of us going up and booting up Fortnite and getting into
correct.
different matches.
Yep.
So
Fortnite has more players per match right now, at least from when I test.
Yeah. What is it, 100 people in Fortnite?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah, I know they haven't got up to that yet because they talked about it on the live stream today, which we may cover again in a later week because it pretty much happened like an hour before the show went live. I know some of us were watching it, which was cool, but I didn't get time to really analyze everything. So we'll probably go over that in a later stream as well. But, yeah. Alpha. I know they opened up the servers for some spot testing for those of us who were, available to do some spot testing. You got in. You had the time to actually play at this point. What did you experience? Anything change?
Yeah, they've actually made a couple changes. Some for the good, some for the so-so. So still buttery smooth as it comes in. The Griffin kind of ride is throughout the whole time before you land. So it's no longer on the Griffin and then, at some point you ditch it. There's doors opening now. There's the dodging. Dodge rolling is in. There's, what else is there? Oh, there's something that was changed with it feels like with the whole client itself, because I have a pretty big setup on my gaming machine, and I've got a pretty big screen. I don't think it was utilizing the full screen before, but now it actually is, and it actually looks a lot better on my personal screen. So that was pretty good as well too. What is it? And they've also changed some like in-game mechanics slightly. Like for example, the recharge rate on armor, I believe it is. How quickly some armor kind of first goes in, and kind of a little more tweaks with a little bit more responsiveness in terms of picking up the armor and swapping out stuff in and out. So that's just what I noticed in the one game that I was actually in before they shut it down.
Gotcha.
How is the stamina?
The stamina is not draining fully like it should. Like I was able to dodge, but it did not drain stamina like a dodge normally would.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that.
Oh wait.
I know that was a complaint earlier that I even had, because when we were playing it right now, even for a battle royale game, like you could just permanently sprint because it never ate your stamina.
Yeah.
And
That was one of the big issues coming out of the game on Sunday.
yeah, because if that meant if you didn't have a ranged weapon, you could never catch up. I mean, I guess you kind of could if you did the launch or whatever, the supercharge attack, but that did eat stamina. And then you would have to keep doing it over and over and over again. You would eventually run out of stamina because they could just keep running. I mean,
I think that's something they'll fix.
I did that earlier. I think that's how I killed one guy because I had like no armor and like 5 health left. They had a melee weapon. I just sprinted and ran along the edge of the storm and then just waited till the storm started moving and then just got them caught and separated. They finally gave up or ran away from the storm or something like that, because you could just do an infinite sprint. So, and I did notice that in the live stream today, Alex was dodging quite a bit. The dodge before, did anyone actually get the dodge to work in previous ones? I think I did like once, but it was like unintentional. I'm trying to dodge, and it's not working, and then all of a sudden, randomly, I'm dodging.
Yeah, I never got it to work.
Yeah, it didn't seem like the keybind was working.
I even tried changing the keybind, and then it didn't even unintentionally work, I guess. Because I forget where they had it. Where it was like shift or something like that. I don't remember what you had to hold. But I'm like, this is awful. I'm going to try to move it to my my gaming mouse to like where my thumb is. I'm like, this would be perfect. No, it wouldn't even record the mouse at that point. So, yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, I'm excited to see them. I know they said they want to start moving towards the 100-person match. That will be exciting to see. Can I also say one other thing? I just want to hear everyone's opinion on this. When they were streaming today and they announced on Twitter, they said they're going to show the arena match. Did anyone else think it was something different than the Battle Royale and was excited and then disappointed when you realized it was just the Battle Royale?
They renamed it.
Yeah. I kind of had that impression for a second, too.
Okay.
I thought it was the Battle Royale, but looking at the Discord, a lot of people thought it was something different.
Yeah, I thought it was something different, like a 5v5 arena or something along those lines. Because remember, they had those at PAX. Way long ago, they had a PvP arena. That's actually what I thought it was going to be, not the Battle Royale. But again, for those of us who've been in Alpha 1, like all of us now have been in Alpha 1.
Well, I made it to the lobby.
Almost all of us have been in Alpha 1.
I don't know if Alpha heard this. I believe on the stream they did today, though, they said that the Battle Royale was the first version of Arena. Or the first iteration. So it might be that Arena incorporates multiple different game modes.
Which is true. I could agree. I agree with that. I'm just... I agree. And I don't mind the Battle Royale. I actually have been kind of enjoying it. I know we were all, as a guild, we were all sitting in our Discord channel when we were doing some testing, and it was exciting to watch, even if you died, to watch to the person's eyes and cheer on your teammate. I know the one match that Alpha Soul won, him and I were down to like the last 3. I got stuck in the storm and died, and then I went into, I guess, his vision, and I'm like, "Go Alpha, go!" It was fun to watch. It really is. I just thought Arena was different. And
yeah.
I see Free Spirit. He's like, I thought Arena was something different from BR2. And again, this is something in my head, seeing that we're all Alpha 1 testers. All right? Because we're all Alpha 1 testers, I was expecting something new. A lot of people who aren't Alpha 1 testers haven't seen that, though. I had to get that through my head, thinking that we've been testing it for almost a month now. At least Alpha and I have been testing it for almost a month now. That, yeah, there's probably a lot of people who haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything else on Alpha 1 progress so far before we move to the next topic? I want to make sure we keep moving, but I want to make sure everyone's had an opportunity to speak. No?
I think we're good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm really excited for the Castle and Horde modes coming out. I think that's when we're going to start feeling things to be a little bit more MMO-ish, if you will. I know Alpha 2 is where they're really going to hit the persistence and will really feel like an MMO. But, yeah, definitely excited for that. Chat, thank you so much for being as interactive as you guys are. I'm curious if any of you guys have been in Alpha 1, what your thoughts are of the game. Feel free to just type those in chat or leave us a message in the description of, or the comments of this podcast. All right. Moving on to discussion topic. This is something that I thought of and I really wanted to talk about for a little while. To kind of give you guys a little bit of a preamble here before we started. Another game that DCN follows. We don't do a show on it, but we follow it as a community. Chronicles of Illyria, because we're really big into the indie MMO space. They're a lot farther back in development, it seems. So they have a lot of pre-launch events that I feel like, how do I want to say this? They do because it keeps the community interested, right, in the game, because it's taken a little while. But I wanted to talk about the viability of GM-led events in both a pre-launch context and also a live game context. So let's go ahead and start with pre-launch. The thing that Chronicles of Illyria did, they just did one called the Searing Plague. Now, what they were doing, and I thought this was neat, was they decided that in Illyria, there was going to be a plague that swept through in the lore. And the players had this little click game, if you will, on their website. That's really all it was. You showed up every 4 hours and either generated purity or generated plague and got rid of them, used abilities to get rid of them that you could use every couple hours. It was nothing more than a super delayed cookie clicker. But the idea was you saw these progress bars, and depending on which one, the lore would reflect it. Had the plague one, there would have been a plague zone or a plague biome implemented into the game. So when the game started, which was, I guess, 300 years after the Searing Plague happened, the remnants of that plague would still exist. If the purity one, the cure one, there wouldn't be, and there was actually a few other things that they awarded. They awarded a title, and anyone who was pure also got some trait for their character that made them resistant to the Searing Plague that does still exist in the game. I know people are already screaming pay to win or something along those lines right off the bat because, I agree the trait is something that we probably wouldn't want to add. But talking about pre-launch events, I love that there was something that got the community involved early on before the game launched. Ashes is a very active community because, a lot of it, Steven with his hype gets us going, right? And we just keep chucking along. But what are your guys' thoughts of pre-launch community events that either A, tell a story of the lore that we can interact with, and maybe even influence how it's going to appear in Vera before or after when the game launches, or something to earn cosmetics or something along those lines? What are your guys' thoughts? Storms, why don't you start?
I honestly wasn't that pulled in and intrigued by the click or the plague. But then again, just could be stuff going on. But I do like the idea of having something that's going to rally the community and bring them in and get some sort of cosmetic in the game that you could know that you were involved in that event. That is going to engage people into that as they go forward, I think.
I see Free Spirit in chat. Good luck trying to pry lore out of Steven's tight lips. You know, that may be the big. That's actually going to be a pre-launch community event where we all storm Intrepid Studios and like force him into a corner to tell us lore. Imorik, I'm going to jump to you on this one next because you and I both participated in the Searing Plague event fairly heavily.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even do it as much as some people did. Some people were religious about it every 4 hours. But, you know, another big thing about the event was that did not or had not bought a pack for the game yet would have been a plagued individual. Mm-hmm. People who had packs could then cure that person, which would give them the $45 starter pack for the game, essentially gifting them. So to me, it was a genius move for Chronicles, who has a smaller player base than Ashes does, right, to really grow their player base from it. I know I had 3 or 4 people who got into it because of just my small little group of I play with.
Mm-hmm.
So from that aspect, it was genius.
Yeah, no, definitely. I know that DCN and Hands of Fate specifically, we healed how many people? 8? So we got 8 people packs, I think it is. And I know one of our members specifically was like, you know, I probably wouldn't have pledged for the game, but now that I already have a pack, it almost makes me want to up the pledge to get something else.
Exactly.
I think
that's a good move.
I think it would be neat if they would do something like that for the pre-launch event that the community could do. Like I said, the clicker game, it was interactive. It required the people who wanted to cure people to be interactive. But I wonder if they would do something, especially as we get closer to like betas, for instance, to generate beta keys so people could do, like I said, in this particular case, get together, earn a currency somehow. Like this is how I'm going to speak about if this was with Searing Plague. If you own a pack already, you can generate purity every 4 hours. That's how the Searing Plague worked. I know they did it for a lore, but let's just say a beta point every 4 hours. As long as you're clicking it, you get a beta point. After you amass a certain number, you could redeem it for a beta code, which then you could then give to somebody who hasn't pre-purchased a pack yet. I think that'd be really a fun marketing campaign, if you will, a game for people. They could get out there for the people who haven't backed the game yet. You could get them beta codes and hand those out to people because, again, when the game launches, you're not going to need to buy a box or anything. You just pay the sub. But getting people to try it without even paying the sub with a beta key might be a fun way of doing it. Rally some community together and work on that. I like that idea.
I was thinking that it would be better to do in-game. Of course, that would be a lot of development resources better used elsewhere. But say Alpha 2, that's persistent sort of event there where if completed by the players would generate so many extra beta keys within given.
You know, I like that as well because I know they're going to be tracking us for all the alpha testers to earn cosmetics. Like you said, doing a reward to encourage testing, generating beta keys. You test, you can generate beta keys to give away to people. I think that'd be really neat as well. And I know this is actually kind of funny. Let's take this back. It feels like Chronicles of Illyria has a really good website staff and fewer developers, whereas Ashes of Creation have all these developers but no website staff. I think part of the website staff, they were able to generate and code all of that because they had a staff that could program it on the website. I don't know if the Ashes website could do anything at this point.
Yeah, but you could fit that up pretty quick, right? So I think that'd be a great way to do it.
I guess. Yeah, it's possible. All right, so pre-launch events. I mean, I'm in favor of them. I think they're a fun way for the community to rally together to accomplish a certain goal. Within Chronicles of Illyria, it was earning free essentially free game codes for other members of the community. I'm trying to think of what I wanted to say at that point. Anyway, free game codes but it also drove lore forward. I would love the idea, especially getting more people into Ashes of Creation is a big plus, but being able to kind of control where the lore's going was something I thought was pretty neat based on player interactions at that point. Let's go ahead and transition. Actually, before I do that, what are you guys' thoughts on pre-launch events? Let's Storms just give me just a rundown what your thoughts are.
I think it's a great idea. I think if it's played right, you can bring people and bring the community beyond what's already in the testing in the Discord. You can bring people in to do that. I think that's a good idea.
Alpha Soul, what about you?
I like it as well too, but I like whenever I think of pre-launch events, what I'm thinking of more is kind of like what Final Fantasy XIV did with theirs, and that was. Do you guys remember when they transitioned from the original to A Realm Reborn?
I do, yes.
Like that, basically, where there's something that's happening server-wide, basically, and I'm assuming this is like the beta, and there's a transition with the lore into the actual game, basically. But that's, kind of more what I'm kind of looking for.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And Imorik, what about you?
Yeah, pretty much what I said before. I understand what Alpha is saying, though, as far as, Chronicles did it, too, with the lore progression. As far as making it a game progression thing, like I said before, instead of putting those resources to letting more people, it might be better to put it into the game, better game, come out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, the difference between Ashes and Chronicles is Ashes has the development staff to really push forward and move the game forward. So yeah, maybe these pre-launch events aren't something that is really feasible because we are moving fast. We are getting a lot of stuff very quickly, whereas Chronicles is much slower. They have to keep their community engaged over a longer period of time, whereas Ashes is like, oh, we got the game ready to go,
Let's just move.
Yeah. Actually, Stephen had a quote on that. I wasn't fully paying attention. I have to relaunch the live stream, but I did catch something that he did say. And when you think about it, it's we have, I think, 4 or 5 months until we're into, a significant portion of the testing where a ton of stuff will have been done in between now and then. So there's a lot of quick, fast development that's going on right now. And you're right. If that's the case, I highly doubt there's time to create these events and do that if you're continuously iterating and developing off of that.
Well, yeah, if you don't have a separate team of folks to do that, you don't want to touch the folks who are building the game, right? I mean, that could be a different team, but Alf, when you're running through these things, you want to keep your focus on what your main priority is.
Yep,
If you let it get distracted, your main priority is going to have a problem.
Yep.
You become Star Citizen.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you can become, but you got to keep your focus or you get distracted.
Yeah, that's actually one of my annoyances because I'm a product manager by trade, and the team that I have, it bugs me so much when somebody comes in, they're like, hey, can your guys do this? And they'll be doing this for X amount of time. It's like, no, we're on a roll. We don't want to lose that momentum.
It's your job to build that hedge around the folks and keep them separated.
Yep.
I actually had somebody who actually hid their developers in the building so people couldn't find them.
Sounds like some management techniques I need to start employing just to make sure my guys don't get pulled away. It looks like our Discord decided to be... Oh, I see. All right. Cool.
I didn't do it.
Oh, no.
Not me.
Nope. All good.
I don't know what happened.
I think Imorik, your camera just died. That's all. Yeah. All good. I'll just adjust
Alright.
that. If you can get it working, great. If not, then it's all good. Cat.
His picture kind of looks like Revan.
Is that what we're looking at? Nice. Hey, there we go.
Yeah.
We're back.
Now we can start.
Yes, Cam. The cat walks across and does every show. Like, I know we have 4 co-hosts here, but she's like the unofficial 5th co-host because she's always on every show. She'll make appearances randomly throughout every single show we do. All right. Moving back into live game events. Should Ashes of Creation dedicate part of its development staff or even CM team to what's called a live events development team? That they could run live events in the game for people to enjoy. I know Imorik and I were talking about this, what was it, like 2 nights ago, where I think Steven said that he doesn't like the idea of GM-led events because that leads people to miss things. To which I sat here and scratched my head, went, but Steven, your entire game's about missing things. If you go to bed at 3 a.m. and your node level's at 4 a.m., guess what? You just missed that event. I get, sort of, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'm trying... What is it? Skelenth? No, she's not a Russian blue. She looks like a Russian blue. She's just a domestic short hair. But she doesn't have the eyes. Her eyes are kind of a yellow. She looks like a Russian blue, but she's not. I see, yes, they should enhance the node setup. Let me talk about one thing in particular that I found earlier, and we'll jump around a little bit after this. A game you may or may not have known about called The Matrix Online. This was circa 2003-ish? I can't remember right now. Anyway, The Matrix Online was one game where I guess it was more or less, in my eyes, a pioneer of the storytelling MMO, because unlike other MMOs of the time, I know World of Warcraft was out, but it was still in earlier expansions, I think like BC kind of stuff. It wasn't as heavy on storytelling. Matrix Online was very heavy storytelling, and it was supposed to take place around the time of, I think, between the second and third movies. It was supposed to continue the Matrix storyline after, was it the Wachowski brothers? Is that who did The Matrix? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Wachowski brothers left off on it. So characters from the movies that didn't die were still there. So Morpheus was still there, Trinity was still there, et cetera, et cetera. Neo, I think, was still there, which makes me think it was between the third movie, because for some odd reason, I think he dies at the end of the third. Spoiler alert for a 15-year-old movie. But it's been like 10 years since I've seen it, so maybe he didn't die. I don't remember. Anyway, that's not the point. The real point is there were times where the developers would actually take control of these characters. Like, they were in the game all the time, but developers would take control of the characters and actually roleplay out a story and give hints about the lore of the world. And I see Dreamir MK1. Secret World did it better in some ways. Secret World, I think, definitely kind of led the story, is one of the best story MMOs out there right now, if you just like story. But it was neat that if you were there when the event happened, you were getting clues to the lore of the world, of the Matrix, that gave you other hints. And I know the idea that, yes, some people wouldn't be there, but with the information age the way it is, it would probably end up on ashesofcreation.wiki, any of the wiki sites, any of the news sites, AOC Dungeon, because I shout out to them again. It would end up on those sites over time. So I don't feel like people would miss anything more than if they missed a node popping up. Let's go down the line. Imorik, let's start with you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Steven's already said that, the GMs are going to in-game both on GM-labeled characters as well as on characters that are, anonymous. Who they play.
Yeah,
So
yes, you are right there, but I don't think they're gonna do anything in the term
right.
of an event. Like, I know ArenaNet used to do it. Like, when the game first launched, you'd sometimes see characters logged in with the ArenaNet tag, and they sat in zone chat, but they didn't do anything, and they were out of character. So,
Well, and I know when we talked about it, we talked about, not only just somebody not being on, but an event happening in one part of the world, and if people could get there to do the event, if it's spontaneous, then maybe that would be an issue I could see. But like you already mentioned, the whole game is developed around missing, or the potential of missing, whether it's a scheduled event or a spontaneous. It's going to happen either way. The only way that I could see that could kind of lessen that a little bit is if you had to pay regular. Even if they're spontaneous, if it's a one-time thing, I could understand somebody being upset about missing that. But if it's something that they pop in and 3 or 4 times, a month, just once a week, basically, then it's not that big a deal.
something that just popped in my head. I'm going to pass the question over here to Alpha Soul. Something that popped into my head. I play Pokemon Go a good bit. Gets me out, moving around. And they have something called a community day where they spawn a specific Pokemon a lot more. There's a lot of reasons to go out and catch on that day, but they announced that like a month ahead of time. Alpha Soul, do you think some of the fear of these GM-led events would be dissuaded a little bit if they kept a detailed calendar of when these events were going to go on?
If they keep a detailed calendar, I think that some of it will be, only because some other games do it very similar to that, where they have an ongoing calendar of special events that are going on. They're not exactly GM events, but you kind of know when they're coming up. But I don't think it'll completely go away, only because even with our like stress tests, for example, they announced the time well in advance, and you still have people who are complaining that it's not when the ideal time that they can play. So I don't think that's ever going to go away with a live event.
Sure. With how active our community is, and I know there's a lot of people chomping at the bit to stream, and I try to push my cat out of the way so everyone got to see a cattail again. I honestly think if they kept a detailed schedule, or maybe even live stream these events. Remember when Matrix Online came out, and I know we'll talk about Ultima Online a little bit. I know some Asheron's Call. I didn't play Asheron's Call, so I can't really say too much about that, but I did play UO, and I know a little bit about the Matrix because I know a lot of people were playing it. If Ashes of Creation would actually stream their GM-led events, I think that'd be kind of neat in a way that people could experience it. Even if they didn't, I'm sure somebody would. And here's the cat, just so everyone can see her. Say hello. Say hello. Ah, be good. All right. That's where she's going to sit now. This is how the Falcon will actually sit, just so you know. Yeah, she's... What are you doing back there?
So are you talking like from their perspective?
I don't even... It doesn't have to be from their perspective. Maybe it would be, but if they just streamed it so people who wouldn't be able to be on the server would be able to experience it in some way. Or if it was on a different server altogether, a different data center, that kind of thing.
So I see two things we haven't talked about with regards to this. One, I think they have a built-in GM event availability with the monster tokens, right? So if somebody decides not to do that, and they have to have an event, are they going to have that AI driven, or they're going to have a GM do that? And two, Steven has a lot of ideas that are just drive the whole thing, but there's going to have to be some ideas around let's do things that are going to get community involvement or bring in money, right? Because the game has to be self-funded, or it's just going to disappear because you're end up out of money. So how are they going to, monetize these events in order to cover the cost of not only the development of the event, but the team that's going to do the event?
Well, I imagine that they have a GM anyway on the server. I know, the game I come from is more online. Of course, more online is got a lot of issues, so that's part of why they have to have it on to fix it. But wouldn't you have that person available?
See, a lot of times the live development team didn't really do development per se. They were part of the developers developed tools to allow them to do these events, control characters, stuff like that. It was part of the CM's team job to run these events, like a subsection of the community team would run events. Like you wouldn't be taking your SQL programmer out to role play something. You would actually
right, but a CM person still has got a cost, right? And their team is a cost, whether it's they're a volunteer and they could be doing something else, or they're paid and it's a monetary cost. You got to figure that into how much it's going to cost through it, and how much community involvement is going to be involved. I think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a bad idea. I just they're going to have to think through what the funding situation is around that. We know what complaints there are when you get changes in one place. Well, why didn't you work on I wanted? Why did you do this silly stuff? Why did you do housing when you could be doing more PvP fixes, right? So that's going to be the conversation, and then you just have to think that through.
And I get what you're saying on that, and I see Dan the man, I want to shout out that he's like, I think missing a one-time event is part of the fun. It makes it feel more real. And Lord Nomak says, it's going to be unfair in some way or another, depends on where in the game world and what time in real life. That's true. The event could be happening and you're on the other side of the continent, and you're like, it's going to take me 4 hours to get across the continent, given if the world's big enough. How am I going to make it in time for the event till it's over? Maybe not.
Are you even friendly with that node? Or
yeah, right? You could be killing the site and the guild's there to attack
That's
you.
the point. That would be me.
Imrik's just unfriendly with all nodes.
I was actually thinking earlier when we brought up scheduled events, perfect time to do nefarious deeds while everybody's on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Doing the guild events.
have fun over there, buddy.
Yeah. You go over there and talk to that CM while we burn your entire castle to the ground.
We got some things to think about as we go forward.
Yeah. GM-led events. Good idea. You guys look over there.
Yeah.
Don't mind me with the
Go look over
torches.
there. I am not at this caravan. What are you talking about?
No, this torch is not for a nefarious purpose. How dare you, sir? Yeah. No, I like that. And I do like GM events. But like you were saying, from a development side, if it's being used by the CM team, yes, there is a cost to having the CM team there, right? And what should their job be? Is the community requiring of every single one of them? I mean, let's back this up a little bit. ESO, I know they have a lot of money because they're ZeniMax, but they do ESO live every single week for several hours where both community managers are there doing a live stream talking about the game. I think it's great. But during that time, right, they could have been running an in-game event.
Yep.
You know, it's where do you want to direct them? In the case
Absolutely.
of ZeniMax, they want these live streams to go on because it's a way of interacting with the larger Twitch community and trying to get more people into their game, and it fits. But I think that if you had a live development team, I think what is the thing that we keep talking about within the community? Emergent gameplay, right? These stories we hear from games like EVE Online that we're like, wow, that is really cool. You know, that these things happen, right? That it's not as static. If you heard that GMs were running events and they just randomly did something interesting, that would make you go, wow, you know, maybe I want to go in and check that out and bring more people into the game than it would. So you got to look at it in a cost of, yes, you're retaining your player base because you want people to stay sub because they're like, well, I don't want to miss any events. It's not like a theme park where it's like I can unsub till the next raid comes out. It's I need to stay sub because I may miss an event that goes on. right? I want to stay and I want to see what's going on. We'll save that for the last bit. Well, actually, no, we're going to talk about this first because I have 2 more points before we end. I know we're a little over time, but this is going to be real quick. The Ultima Online, they had a GM event with the assassination of Lord British, which was really funny. This was actually marked down as what most people have said is one of the most iconic events in game history, where it was actually a bug during the Ultima Online beta test. It was during one of their stress tests. Richard Garriott signed onto his avatar as Lord British, and he was supposed to be invulnerable to damage, but he forgot to flip the flag when he logged on, and a player actually killed him, which was insanely funny. That player eventually got banned, but they said it was for other reasons. I don't know. It could have been.
Yeah. To that point, so I know that's what they said in the press release, but I don't think that's what happened. There was a bug, I believe, at the time with the Firefield scroll specifically that would essentially render anything that you did null and void, and you would die to it. So that's what he killed him with, and it wasn't necessarily a GM flag, even though that's what they said in the press release. I'm pretty sure that was the bug that it was.
Right. And I see Skelena in chat. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name wrong. I was talking about GM events. I was just thinking about this. They talked about different types of quest lines, and I know I'm kind of jumping around, but it's a good story. They talked about different quest lines, or different types of quests. They'll have normal quests, they'll have tasks, which are essentially daily quests, and they'll have the big narrative quest. When the big narrative quests are going on, I imagine this to be something an entire server wants to participate in, especially if it's a big narrative event. I think it'd be awesome if the GMs were live at that point.
Absolutely.
You know, like playing characters. Anyway, in this particular instance of assassinating Lord British, do you think that the GM-led events could lead to, like what we were talking about, more of a toxic type environment? Would people tend to try to break them up, crush through them? Would it become more of an issue? Would they try to kill the GMs? Is that a problem?
So, yeah. In a nutshell, everything that you just said will happen plus more. Absolutely, they will. And if you're going to run an event like this in a game that's like this, you got to be prepared for it in some way, shape, or form, because it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna. He gave me a phonic pronunciation, but I think I'm still not gonna get it right. So we're gonna call you Skel for right now. Finally, the last thing I really want to talk about, and I think this is the fear that a lot of people get into. This was just recently brought to light. I don't know if anyone follows the news, but Jagex just recently let go one of their GMs, and actually even got the police involved, because what was happening was the GM was favoring a specific group of players and giving away items, confiscated gold back into... He was doing nefarious things. I guess it's the human element. Some people are scared that GM-led events, if you're friends with that GM, are they going to start to favor you? And in a more of a hilarious thing, back when World of Warcraft, this was back during BC, when they actually allowed GMs to manifest in the world, it was funny because we were doing a quest in, I can't remember the zone, it was the zone with Shadow Moon Valley. And my girlfriend at the time and I were playing, and a mob got stuck in a bridge or something like that. So we put in a GM ticket. The GM actually came into the world and reset the mob for us, which was cool. And they hung around to watch us fight. It was pretty neat. We fought, we killed it, and it was great. And it was funny. What became funny was because she was a female elf character and I was a male character, and my girlfriend was there as well. The GM asked, like, so are you guys together? And we're like, yeah, we're a couple playing together. And they're like, "Oh, but you're cute. Get away from her." So she was doing GM events to me, like putting flower petals on me, and then turned my wife into like the Diablo character, or my girlfriend into the Diablo character. I was just like, she's like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, and turned her into a frog, like kept polymorphing her, and like putting flowers next to me, standing next to me, and she's like, "Yeah, he's mine now." It was funny, but that same event, that same idea of being able to favor one group over another is why I think some people in the community don't like GM events. Do you think that's a problem? Or not a problem, that's a problem, but do you think within Ashes that will be a problem, and how could they combat that if they decided to do live events?
It's going to be a problem in any game.
Yeah.
The human side is always something that needs to be a factor.
Yeah. Imorik, you were...
Yeah, even Immortal, which game I played probably the most of, we had GM because like it was buggy, kind of like so we could fix stuff like that. But you know, there was always accusations that different were favoring one group over another. I don't think it was ever proved in either case, but it does kind of breed some hostility there.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's not happening, there's that possibility that's...
Gotcha. I know Dan the Man, multiple GMs monitoring each other. This is where I think if they live stream the events, like they were only able to do these events. Yeah, I mean, I review reports all day. You have a GM account that logs whenever you're signing in as a character. It generates a log. They pretty much have to live stream it. If they live stream it, then it's all live streamed at all times. And if they look at the log and go, Alpha Soul, we noticed that you logged into the development character and it was a non-live stream day, you could then check on those logs to make sure. And yeah, as long as they did that I think that would solve some of those issues. And if you're live streaming, then everyone would have the video evidence to prove, well, you know, yes or no, there was or there wasn't abuse from a GM side of things. So, yeah. Anyway. All right, guys, any closing thoughts? I know we're about 15 minutes over what we normally run, but we had a couple good topics, and I'm glad we actually got a chance to talk about it. Any closing thoughts on that before we wrap up the show? No? Okay.
No.
Oh, Imorik?
Well, only thing is they're a two-edged sword. You know, you have all these negative things that can happen, but you also have positive things.
Mm-hmm.
Banning cheaters or whatever. You know, that me and Alpha have talked about in Discord. So there's two sides of it. You gotta balance it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That is a great point. Yes, the GM-led events, there is always the negatives of people complaining, hey, I didn't get to experience it, it's not fair. You know, is there abuse from a GM side of things? But then there's also the positives of it going, yes, there's more community interaction. There's a community developer interaction. And it's actually hype. It actually does bring people in. They like... The reason why we got into these MMOs in the first place was they were supposed to be virtual worlds, right? Like, it's a world you can live in is what so many of us jumped into these for. It's one of the reasons why I have such a hard time playing single-player games, because to me, they're not permanent, whereas even in the most linear sand park, the world goes on without you having to be there. You are not the driving force of the world. The world is there, and you're just a part of it. And I think that's what all of us like to see. And having something that's not scheduled or scripted or can be figured out on a wiki is something that is exciting about these types of games, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. I want to say thank you to the chat room. You guys are amazing. Thank you for being out here and for being so active in chat. We had a little over 100 people in here this week. Again, you guys are fantastic. Thank you so much for coming out on these shows. I know we just started doing them live. We probably should have started doing them live before, because our reception has been amazing, and we really appreciate each and every one of you for coming out to these shows. Yeah, it's fantastic. I couldn't be more happy with the community shows out to support as well as interact with us. It's great. All right, let's go ahead and let everyone know where people can find you. Let us start with Imorik first and foremost. Where can people find you, buddy?
In the Dungeon Crawler Discord.
There you go. That's easy.
Good place to be.
It is a good place to be. There is a link to the description of that. You don't have to be part of our guild to be part of the Discord. We are a community Discord as well. We talk about games, and we have a lot of fun, and we do encourage people to hop in and chat with us. Keep the conversation going. Alpha Soul, where can people find you?
Yeah, same place for me. You can find me in the Dungeon Crawler Discord amongst the various channels. You can actually also find me in the official Ashes of Creation Discord. And finally on YouTube, where I have a channel there, YouTube.com/DRACDOC.
There you go. And Swallow Liar, thank you for the Twitch sub, mate. Much appreciated. Stormzlord, where can people follow you?
So you can find me at Twitter.com. You can find me in the Dungeon Crawler Network Discord. You can find me at DigitalPepperStudios.com and working on all of our new games and our old ones.
There you go. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Aggelos, AGGELOS_DCN. And of course, both on the official Ashes of Creation Discord and our own. Discord tag is Aggelos, what is it? Oh, dear heaven. 7141, I think. Oh, I should have looked that up before I said anything. But anyway, find me there because that's where you can go. And of course, if you're interested in joining myself and all these awesome people that we have on the stream tonight, of course, you could check out our guild, Hands of Fate, the Ashes of Creation chapter of the Dungeon Crawler Network. We are a gaming community forged by the listeners of our gaming podcast. We are a PVX guild based on the North American Data Center server to come once we know what the servers actually are. But we have players from all over the world. We work to schedule events for each region's prime time, so we have event officers who will be running stuff at all hours of the day. So if you are an EU or Oceanic resident but have enjoyed playing with us in the past, or maybe this will be your first time, we encourage you to check us out. Our guild's focus is, of course, on progression rating, small-scale PvE, crafting, gathering, node-based PvP. Ain't that right, Imorik? We get to smash some people. And community growth, of course. There you go. Follow that. You can follow everything that we do over at DungeonCrawlerNetwork.com. There you can find links to all of our social media, including Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Be sure to check out our Patreon program at patreon.com/DungeonCrawlerNetwork if you want to help support the show. You can also support us by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes so people know that we are a real podcast, that we say real words, and sometimes it matters. We did actually get a couple 5-star iTunes reviews, but this is the end of the show. I'll save them till next week. But thank you so much for those of you who've actually left us reviews. We're nearing 50 iTunes reviews in just a little over a year, which is pretty good, especially for a game that's not even out yet. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of From the Ashes, and we'll see you next time. See you later.